In this video, we're going to talk about the teaching of fractions. I always teach fractions before I go on to decimals, and that's because in the history of mathematics, mankind was using fractions before decimals had ever been invented. Think back to the ancient Egyptians. In core mathematics, the basics of fraction arithmetic are covered thoroughly. When you move on to the more complex fractions and additional mathematics, do make sure that you revise these and that children totally understand the two terms of highest common factors and lowest common multiples, because when you're cancelling fractions, you're using common factors, and when you're adding and subtracting fractions, you're using common multiples. To go straight to the answer readily without lots of staging of calculations, if they can get the highest common factor and the lowest common multiples, they'll be much more efficient and quicker. And of course, speed is of the essence when you're doing those dreaded examinations. In additional mathematics, it moves on from basic fraction arithmetic to more complex fractions using brackets and negatives and the combination of the two. So that will reinforce some of the work you've already done on algebra and place value. It will then move on to looking at finding fractions of an amount and doing that with time and putting it in context with word problems. Then it looks at using fractions on the calculator. Now this is an absolute whiz and children love it, but only when they've got to the stage of being able to understand fractions without the calculator can you introduce them to the calculator. Great thing to do, and hopefully you can devise your own games and investigations which they can use a calculator fraction button to solve, which they will enjoy. Then we move on to decimals and the link between fractions and decimals. Ending in this chapter with some quite complicated fraction arithmetic. Again, looking at the ancient Egyptians, looking at the mythical Eye of Horus. Again, this is designed to engage pupils' interest. They like the challenges. They like the investigation that follows. They like to be able to use their calculator to do the investigation. Your job is to make sure that when they're using a calculator, they do write down the stages that they are using, despite the fact they're also pushing the magic buttons. So in that way, if they aren't getting the use of the calculator correct, then you can show them the right way of doing it. It's a very powerful tool, that fraction button, but it does have to be used carefully and correctly. But children do enjoy it, and we do want to embed this enjoyment of mathematics in your lessons.